1:15:28.
Ladies? Sutta Vacha. Sutta Goswami said, Evam, thus, Chintayataha, while thinking of the instructions, Jishnoho, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishnapada, the feet of Krishna, Saroduham, resembling lotuses. Sohardena, by deep friendship. Atikadena, in great intimacy. Shanta, pacified. Asit, it so became. Vimala, with any tinge of material contamination. Mataki, mind. So translation, Sutta Goswami said, thus being deeply absorbed in thinking of the instructions of the Lord which were imparted in the great intimacy of friendship, and in thinking of his lotus feet, Arjuna's mind became pacified and free from all material contamination. So, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. Since the Lord is absolute, deep meditation upon Him is as good as yogic trance. The Lord is non-different from His name, form, quality, pastimes, entourage, and specific actions. Arjuna began to think of the Lord's instructions to him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Only those instructions began to eliminate the tinges of material contamination in the mind of Arjuna. The Lord is like the sun. The sun's appearance means immediate dissipation of darkness or ignorance, and the Lord's appearance within the mind of the devotee can at once drive away the miserable material effects. Lord Chaitanya has therefore recommended constant chanting of the name of the Lord for protection from all contamination of the material world. The feeling of separation from the Lord is undoubtedly painful to the devotee, but because it is in connection with the Lord, it has a specific transcendental effect which pacifies the heart. Feelings of separation are also sources of transcendental bliss, and they are never comparable to contaminated material feelings of separation. So Sukhim Siddhavacha Evam Chitta Yapo Jishno Krishna Pada Saroham Sohardena Tigadena Santa Sid Vimala Matahi. So Om Gana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So of course we're all familiar with the non-difference of the Lord from His holy name. That's why we chant Hare Krishna. Namachintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukto Vinatvam Namanamino. Famous verse. It means the name of the Lord is this exactly the same as the Lord. It is Chintamani, like a desire stone. Purna, it is complete. Shuddha, it is pure. It is Nitya Mukto, eternally liberated. And when one chants it, one is associated with the Lord. So, of course, it actually depends upon one's mental attitude in terms of how close you are to the Lord when you're chanting. Krishna is always there in His holy names. However, if you have the intense mood of meditation and prayer to the Lord, then your chanting is much more effective. Generally, when we're chanting, unfortunately, we're chanting in a very inattentive way, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur says is the cause or the underlying reason for the other 10 offenses, or the 10 offenses. So the question is, how does one become attentive in chanting? So Arjuna is giving us a little hint here, and this is to feel separation from the Lord. And this is a constant topic you'll find in practically all the devotees' activities and pastimes, and Krishna's pastimes. This mood of intense separation, vipralamba. Of course, you're all familiar with the intense vipralamba the gopis experienced when Krishna left Vrindavan, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in that mood. So I thought I would speak a little bit about Lord Chaitanya's, we'll start with Lord Chaitanya since his appearance day is coming up, with Lord Chaitanya's different pastimes of separation. And separation from his devotees, of course, and the devotees separated from him. And of course, the most prominent one that comes to mind is when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas. It's described that his wife, Vishnu Priya, was only 16 years of age. Pretty amazing. And his mother had no one basically to take care of her. Sachi Mata, she was, of course, widowed. Jagannath Mishra father had passed away a number of years ago. And actually, even previous to that, Lord Chaitanya was married before, and his wife actually passed away due to the snake bite of separation. In other words, the separation between the Lord and the devotee was experienced, manifested itself as a snake. Here in Australia, you've got so many snakes. They're not manifestations of separation, they're manifestations of impiety. So it's a little bit different. But in the case of Lakshmi Priya, the first wife of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, her intense mood of separation, and it's not that Lord Chaitanya had taken sannyas at that particular point. He had simply gone to East Bengal to make some money. On Sankirtan, traveling Sankirtan or something like that. Well, he had gone, to do Brahman's activities. Brahman makes money from yajan, patan, dana pratigraha, from getting charity, basically. So, and then he was gone just a few months, and she could not tolerate the separation so much that she left her body, or the mood of separation manifests externally as a snake. Amazing. That was the intense mood of meditation that Lakshmi Priya had. And then, of course, Vishnu Priya. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left her when she was 16 years old, we mentioned before. And she was so much immersed in this mood of separation, feeling Lord Chaitanya's separation, that it's described that she would, for each mantra she would chant, she would take 1 grain of rice. Some people say for each round, but I don't think that's very practical. I think for each mantra she chanted, instead of chanting on beads, she would take 1 grain of rice, and then when she was finished chanting her japa, she would take that as a prasadam and nothing else. Actually, if we did that with the devotees, everyone would chant more japa, right? Maybe that's a good strategy. What do you think? Just 1 grain of rice, or maybe 10 grains of rice for you. So, and then Lord Chaitanya left, and then she, for the rest of her manifest pastimes, she was just crying, feeling the separation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mother, Sachi Mata, was daily offering to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, offering to the deities and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so attracted to his mother's devotion that he came back in an unmanifested form. This is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He came back in an unmanifested form and ate the food. And it's described that Sachi Mata, she was amazed when she saw that all the food was gone that she had offered to the deity, and she thought, maybe I didn't offer. That's how intense her mood of separation was. It drew the Lord to come and eat the foodstuffs that she had offered. Amazing how this intensity of mood, of course, Rupa Goswami calls that laulyam. That's intense hankering. In the material realm, we have intense hankering for other things, for a new car or whatever, or a new mobile phone or something. Like sometimes I intensely hanker for a Tesla as a car. In case you haven't figured that out. But anyway, then I realize it's impractical, an impossible dream. So, but this intense hankering attracts the Lord. That's actually what brings the Lord to you. And then later on in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was residing in Jagannath Puri, when he decided to go to South India and also Vrindavan, Gadadhar Pandit Goswami wanted to follow him. And Gadadhar Pandit Goswami is actually Radharani in the Panchatattva in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. In the Panchatattva we have Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself in the mood of Radharani. Lord Nityananda, who is Balaram Hoila Nitai. We have Advaitacharya, who is Mahavishnu, Sadashiva. We have Gadadhar, who is Radharani, the internal potency of the Lord. And finally we have Srivas, who is representing the Jiva soul, Narada Muni. So Gadadhar Pandit Goswami, he was a classmate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he couldn't live without Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Jagannath Puri, Gadadhar Pandit Goswami followed him, and he took a vow described as Kshetra Sannyas. Kshetra Sannyas means a vow that one vows to remain in a particular holy place for the rest of his life, serving the deities. And Prabhupada said that is the preferable, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur also said, that's the preferable form of sannyas for people nowadays. The form like I have, taking saffron dhoti or something like that is not. It's only preferable for preaching. Otherwise, it's not that every grahastha has to just leave his home and all the children and grandchildren and everything like that crying in the dust. It's not like that. The grahasthas should stay at home but engage their activities full time in preaching and serving the temple and serving Prabhupada's mission. That's Kshetra Sannyas. So you ladies don't worry, those of you who are married. And you men worry. Because you gotta stay. So it's a blessing. So, Gadadhar Pandit Goswami, getting back to the story, he had taken his vow of Kshetra Sannyas to remain in Jagannath Puri serving the deity of Tota Gopinath. And many of you have been to India and you've seen the deity of Tota Gopinath. Of course, he had so much devotion for the deity of Tota Gopinath that when he was too old to take care of the deity, and the deity is quite large. Who here has been to see Tota Gopinath? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 10 people here. The deity is quite big. I mean, it's one of the biggest Krishna deities I've ever seen. And he was quite tall. And Gadadhar Pandit Goswami, he was basically getting old and unable to reach to the head or the arms even of the deity. And then one morning he woke up and the deity was sitting down. And of course, feeling separation from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu later on when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left the planet, Gadadhar Pandit Goswami also entered into the same deity that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered into. Lord Chaitanya entered into this Tota Gopinath deity, and today if you go to the temple, and if you pay the pujari 100 rupees, he'll show you the golden streak on the thigh of the deity where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered. So, another story about Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. So he had taken his vow, Kshetra Sannyas, and then Lord Chaitanya left Jagannath Puri, and Gadadhar Pandit Goswami was following Lord Chaitanya, which is against the vow of Kshetra Sannyas. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "You're breaking your vow." And then Gadadhar Pandit Goswami said, "Let my vow of Kshetra Sannyas go to hell." It's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this story. And he said, "Let that vow go," because he had so much intense love for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is what I'm pointing out. The intensity of the love. And also the Bhagavatam talks about Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajeta Purusham Param. Tivra. The word Tivra means forceful, basically. Tivra Bhakti. One has to be very forceful. And you see, Prabhupada, he was always like that, not forceful in a material sense, but always focused. Or as we were mentioning last night in our discussion, Prabhupada was always in the zone. You understand? Or the flow. Those of you know what I'm talking about. He was just like very focused and intense on serving his spiritual master and serving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and saving us. I mean, just look at the pictures that you have of Prabhupada. There's no question of him being, like most people, like spaced out. You know, sometimes I look at pictures of devotees who are attending Bhagavatam class. It's like, you know, they've learned how to sleep with their eyes open. One of the techniques you have in the Krishna consciousness movement. Anyway, so, but Prabhupada is, very focused. Everything else, coming to the West at such an age with all the physical difficulties that are there in a 70-year-old body. Believe me, I know. It's not fun. You young people, it's fun. But, one day you'll get old. You can look forward to that time. So, but probably because Prabhupada was so absorbed, like I said, in the zone, or in the flow, whatever you say, didn't even notice those things. Just like it's described here about Arjuna. The feeling of separation, then whatever else was there, just like, was out of focus. Like when you have a camera, and you're focusing, there's this, any of you are photographers, you know what, this thing called bokeh. Anyone's heard that term before? Bokeh. Bokeh means when you focus the camera, then you just focus on the subject and everything else is blurred in the background. It's a technical word, it's called bokeh, B-O-K-E-H. And so that's a pure devotee's meditation, especially the feelings of separation. So Gadadhar Pandit Goswami was saying, let my vow of Kshetra Sannyas go to hell. Now, for those of us in the Western world, breaking vows is, just like Hare Krishna's part of life. Right? I promise. Yeah, whatever. I cross my fingers when I promise. You ever do that when you were young? You make a promise, you cross your fingers behind your back so nobody, see, they can't accuse you of lying. I have my fingers crossed. I was just kidding. But in the Vedic culture, that Lord Chaitanya and his associates were in, then vows were taken as important. Prabhupada was so surprised when the first devotees didn't follow their vows. He was shocked. He was crying. And I listened to a class Prabhupada was giving the other day. Prabhupada was asked, this was in Hawaii, which is basically probably a place where very few people keep their vows, and where everyone, during Bhagavatam class, they go surfing. And he went, you've been to Hawaii? You don't tell me that. So, actually, I was giving a class one time, nobody showed up, and I said, where are all the brahmacharis? They're surfing. So Prabhupada was, anyway, there's a conversation in Hawaii, and Prabhupada was talking, and the devotees were asking, what if someone's not chanting their rounds? You can't chant their rounds. And Prabhupada said they must chant the next day unless, and then they shouldn't eat until they finish their rounds. They should fast until they finish their rounds, Prabhupada said. And then the devotee said, what if they can't do that? And then Prabhupada said, they're not a human being. Prabhupada's really heavy about this stuff, So, getting back to the point of Gadadhar. So vows were taken very seriously. Someone made a promise. Like you have in the Ramayana. Lord Ram makes a promise to go to the Dandakaranya forest, 14 years, to follow his father. And even Dasarath, the father of Lord Ram, he made a promise to Kaikeyi. Even though the promise he made to Kaikeyi is that he would send he would do whatever she said. She sort of tricked him into making a promise. How did she trick him? She was crying. Beware. So anyway, she was crying. She was on the ground, pounding her fist, because she was influenced by this other person named Manthara, for those of you who know the Ramayana. So anyway, because she was upset that Lord Ram was going to be installed rather than her son, Bharat. And so she was in a specific room in her palace, a crying room. And Dasarath was so upset to see her crying, he said, whatever you want, I'll do for you. So he made that promise. Whatever you want, just ask me, dear, just get up. And of course, as soon as he said that, she got up and the tears dried up. He said, really? Of course. Haribol. So, I don't know if she said Haribol. But then she asked him, send Ram to the forest, right? And for 14 years, and enthrone my son. And Dasarath did it. And not only that, of course, this is another story of separation within a story of separation, that he died feeling separation from Lord Ram. He died feeling separation from Lord. So back to Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. So he said, let my vow of Kshetra Sannyas go to hell. And it's described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami that Lord Chaitanya was protecting his vow, and Lord Chaitanya ordered him, you go back. And so going back, he fainted. And he was thinking intensely of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because of this mood of separation. It is the highest intensity, it is the highest connection. As Prabhupada comments in the purport, in the material world, the mood of separation is not connection. And incidentally, even if you're in the presence, the physical presence of someone, that's not connection either. Because you have no meeting of minds, you understand? It's just like, I scratch your back, you scratch my back. Your business arrangement. Not all relationships, I'm not commenting on that. But connection means to be spiritually connected, not materially connected. I could shake your hand. Of course, nowadays you're not supposed to shake anyone's hand with coronavirus. But anyway, or nowadays they say do fist bumps. Did you know that?
No, it was the elbows.
Elbows are fist bumps. Fist bumps. So, so you can shake someone's hand, but you're not in contact with them. We're not the body. Ishwara Sarva Bhutanam Resha Judatishti Ramayan Sarva Bhutani Yantram Runani Maya. It's just your machine coming in contact with someone else's machine. It's just like, you have your two cars, crash or whatever. Of course they shouldn't crash. But just two cars, but you're not in contact with the driver in the car. But on the spiritual platform, you're never separated from the person if you're thinking intensely about the person. So let me just have one or two more stories of intense separation which are interesting. Let's look at the story of Srinivasacharya. Srinivasacharya is the second generation from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Srinivasacharya, he wanted to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. Some of you may have heard this story. So he goes to Jagannath Puri, and right before he arrives, he discovers that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has left this world. So then he decides, feeling just like so much intense separation, he decides to study the Bhagavatam with Swarup Damodar Goswami, who is still there in Jagannath Puri. But the problem is that Swarup Damodar Goswami's Bhagavatam is not legible, because it was the Bhagavatam that he and Lord Chaitanya were reading from, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Swarup Damodar Goswami were crying as they were reading this Bhagavatam. And if you cry while you're reading something that is written in the type of ink they used then the ink gets smeared. So they couldn't read it. So then Srinivasacharya, he goes to find another Bhagavatam. By the time he gets back, he discovers that Swarup Damodar Goswami is gone. And King Prataparudra is gone. And all of Lord Chaitanya's aside. And he's feeling this great mood, intense mood of separation, almost ready to leave his body, the mood of separation. Then he decides to go to Vrindavan to take shelter of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. So he goes to Vrindavan, and then he discovers, right before he gets to Vrindavan, he's informed that Rupa and Sanatana Goswami have left this world. And he thinks, what a horrible place this Vrindavan is. Because, the separation. Yugayitam nimishena shabdrusha pravashayatam shunyayatam jagat sarvam govinda virahename. So, like Lord Chaitanya says, feeling separation from Krishna, he is experiencing the time one moment, like the yuga cycle. So he gets ready just to forget about going to Vrindavan, but then finally he goes, and then he meets Jiva Goswami and Shaimananda, like that, and Narottam Das Thakur. So in this way, this mood of separation manifests continually in the devotees' activities. So how does this relate to us? I think that's an important question. Of course, we do have that statement of Prabhupada in the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam about when the king dies, Malaya Dwaja, that's not the king, that's the lady. She feels so much separation. She's getting ready to leave her body, like in the Sati rite. And then Prabhupada comments in the purport, that is also reflecting the commentaries of the other acharyas, that the mood of the disciple is the same way. The mood of the disciple should be that when the spiritual master leaves the planet, that they should be ready to leave the disciple, if they're not, to leave the planet too. If they're not ready to carry out the mission of the spiritual master, because the mission of the spiritual master is non-different from the spiritual master. So, because we are all followers of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, then whether we're directly initiated by him or or initiated by one of his other followers, we should understand this mission of Srila Prabhupada. The temples, the mission, the preaching, bringing people to Krishna's lotus feet is non-different than Srila Prabhupada. You know, Prabhupada at one point said, he is ISKCON. I mean, that's, of course, you know, in one sense, that's a poetic expression, but it's actually a fact. ISKCON referring to the mission. I'm not going to say that, you know, every member of the GBC, like myself, is Prabhupada. You know, or we don't make mistakes. We certainly make mistakes. But being focused on Prabhupada, what is Prabhupada's mission? Prabhupada's mission is to create a revolution in the misdirected lives of an impious civilization. Tadvaga visarga janataga viplavo. Yasmin pratishlokam abhadavatripi namananantasha yasho nikataniyat shunvanti gayanti grananti yat sadava. That's one of Prabhupada's famous or favorite verses. That the purpose of this Bhagavatam is to create a revolution in misdirected lives of an impious civilization. And certainly we have an impious civilization, not here, but practically everywhere. And it's getting more impious every day. I can tell you that, having lived in this world for many years, it was a lot more pious when I was young. Isn't it? I mean, it was impious. People were eating meat, but, you know, things have gotten a lot crazier. A lot crazier. So that's Prabhupada's mission, to bring people to Krishna's lotus feet. And Prabhupada often would say, when someone would say, you know, I want your lotus feet, and Prabhupada said, my lotus feet are moving, so you have to move. To get his lotus feet. You know, if someone's not going to just sit there or stand there to have you touch his feet, you got to run after him. Krishna say Tomar, Krishna vite par, as stated by the Vaishnavas, that Krishna is yours, you have the power to give him. I'm simply running behind you, chanting, Krishna, Krishna. So it's important for us not simply to read this story about Arjuna feeling separation, but to try to develop this mood in one way or other. You know, separation from the Vaishnavas, separation from Prabhupada, separation from devotional service. I mean, whatever. And when we're chanting Krishna's names. I mean, why did Lord Chaitanya give us the Shikshashika? So we could develop that mood of separation and the mood of intense, focused devotion. That is our movement. Like Prabhupada was one time asked, the devotees said, is it true that when one preaches Krishna consciousness, it's done in the mood of the gopis? And Prabhupada said, yes, you've understood. But what does that mean? It doesn't mean, you know, when you're preaching Krishna consciousness, you just imagine yourself wearing a sari. You know, if you're a lady, it's all right, but and then you put on lipstick or something like that, or whatever. No, it means feeling separation. What's the mood of the gopis? I mean, you can understand the mood of the gopis by reading the last chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, if you really want to understand the mood of the gopis, where Radharani says, if my unhappiness gives Krishna happiness, then my unhappiness is my happiness. Last chapter. It's a commentary on the Shikshashika. A very beautiful chapter. So, I mean, all the chapters are beautiful, but this one in particular is very inspiring for me. So, in other words, it's important for us to, as we're chanting, as we're serving, to have this intense mood, develop this intense mood of separation. And before we chant every day, we can do a sankalpa. Sankalpa means intention. You know, why am I chanting? What's the reason for doing this? What do I want? I mean, even Dhruva Maharaj, of course, he didn't have the mood of separation, but he was chanting with intensity. He wanted something. At least there has to be some intensity while you're performing your devotional service, like really focus, which we mentioned before. Anyway, so these are some of the lessons, I think. Let's see, what time is it? Yeah. We can get from this. So any questions or comments? Yes?
Sometimes that intensity can come out the wrong way, but when you're delivering to people.
Delivering what?
The
Oh, you want a microphone?
Sometimes.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah. I forgot my answer.
All right.
No, sorry. Sometimes that intensity can come out often in the wrong way if you're not pure.
Yeah, it comes out as passion.
Yeah. And then you sort of, then in fact, you feel bad because you want to live with it.
By intensity, I don't mean passion. Passion means, just a rushing out all over the place without thinking about what you're doing, and running everyone over. Oh, just get out of my way, you stupid devotee, I'm doing service. That's passion. By intensity, I mean focus. I want to really define that word. Thank you for bringing that out. To focus, like Prabhupada, he was so focused. I remember sitting behind Prabhupada, or standing behind Prabhupada while he was giving class, and just watching him play the cartels. I was just like absorbed, just watching him play the cartel. Well, now you turned me down. I have to get more intense. The other day I got so intense, passionate, giving class, I threw my glasses off, hammering like that, and the glasses just flew out. So, just sitting behind or standing behind Prabhupada and watching him play, just his fingers, just really focused. It was like watching a ballet, basically, something that was just so beautiful. It's like you hear Prabhupada play the cartels. And, that every time I've been with Prabhupada, he was just so focused on his mission. I mean, that's a pure devotee. Or, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. You see, all these pure devotees are just very focused on their mission. And that doesn't mean that they don't tell jokes once in a while. Prabhupada was very humorous. Many times he would tell jokes, like when that one devotee was talking about the moonshot, and then this devotee, Purushottam, went into the kitchen and burned himself, and Prabhupada, the devotees asked Prabhupada what happened to him, and Prabhupada said he's gone to the moon. So Prabhupada also, but he was focused on doing what he was doing for his spiritual master. He was focused on the order of his guru. And that's due to and Prabhupada was asked one time about separation from his spiritual master. He said, do you ever feel separation? Don't worry, I don't have the virus. Anyway, so do you ever feel separation, intense separation from your spiritual master? And Prabhupada replied immediately, that question you don't need to ask. In other words, that's none of your business, buddy. Prabhupada said it in a nice way. So by intensity, I mean focus. Okay, so another question. Yes. Microphone? Thank you.
I'm just trying to unpack it a little bit more. So you said that the men should stay home, and I can see that you can develop a sense of separation because maybe, I'm talking male, female, not.
Yeah.
That the situation may be not so favourable Krishna consciousness. So sometimes in that situation it may be easier to go with the more flowing devotees that are engaged in Krishna consciousness. So I'm trying to understand this a little bit.
Whatever works best. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur said not stays home inside the home, so he just drives you crazy. The guy drives you crazy afterwards. Get out, do something practical. But stay. Not that one has to just absolutely renounce the family. That's the real point. Not just say, like in the sannyas, the sannyas that I have, is that you're civilly dead. In other words, you're dead, you're died. You have no more responsibilities except to serve Krishna. And Prabhupada's movement and everything like that. I mean, of course, I do still keep in touch with my mother. I have to admit it. And I do love my mother, so Hare Krishna. So, but Lord Chaitanya also kept in touch with his mother too. So there was nothing wrong with that. But that type of sannyas is only recommended for those who have some mission to preach and travel widely.
Yes.
So the whole idea is to maximize the service to Krishna. It's not that one becomes more Krishna conscious by leaving the home. I mean, I can say that when I took sannyas, it didn't make me more Krishna conscious, it made me more proud. Here I am, a sannyasi, bow down, Mr. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Got that Boy George song. So, and I was thinking, wow, now I get the chance to eat all the Mahaprasadam. In the old days, every time that there was an offering to the deities, the sannyasi got the whole plate afterwards. But now, at my age, I can't even eat Mahaprasadam anymore. It's get sick. Anyway, I can eat a little, but not much. So it's not that taking sannyas makes you more Krishna conscious. You become more Krishna conscious by pleasing His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. I mean, so whatever pleases him the most, whether it means taking sannyas, hanging from a tree, whatever. I'm not saying hanging from a tree will please him. If you can attract people to Krishna consciousness by hanging from a tree, go ahead. And it's, for example, I have one disciple who's a famous yogi, Hatha Yogi. And, we know, Hatha Yoga, thank you, Hatha Yoga is a physical process. But every year he brings 20 new people to Krishna consciousness. I think he's visited here before. Gokul Chandra, has he visited here? Anyway, no. Anyway, he's visited Australia. So, so that pleases, so just do what you do best to bring people to Krishna consciousness and serve Prabhupada's mission. Do what you do best according to your varna and ashram. So, real sannyas is not lighting no fire, doing no work, but real sannyas is actually doing what pleases the Krishna the most. And that's what's recommended. And so it's not recommended that everybody just has to leave home like that. If they can do more service, if it's best for everyone's Krishna conscious, sure. But if it's not, then what's the need? It just creates a disturbance in society. Yeah, you have a question?
Also, I guess, if you have that desire to please Prabhupada, internally Prabhupada will instruct you to give you the intelligence to do what you have to do, right?
Yeah, but Krishna says, for those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, give them the intelligence, Tesham Satadev Tanam. So, so the whole point is to maximize our service regardless of your ashram. Kiva Vipra, Kiva Nyashi, Shudra Kena Noi. Ye Krishna Tattva Veda Se Guru Hoy. Yare Degatariga Krishna Padesha Marigai Guru Hoy Toye Desh. That everyone is meant to bring people to Krishna consciousness. It doesn't matter whether you're a sannyasi or whatever. It's just, these things are just material. Just like, this is, of course, a little inside information. On the GBC, we're having this discussion about women gurus. You probably heard about this. You probably know that I'm one of the liberals. I'm not going to mention the Conservative Party. And so some of the conservatives made the argument that people in certain types of bodies, female bodies, can't be gurus, and they said, in the same way, you can't have children as gurus. And my reply was, what about the 4 Kumaras? They're probably one of the best, the heads of the Sampradaya. Not only gurus, they're heads of the Sampradaya. So one who knows the science of Krishna. The whole world is just like going to hell in a handbasket, so to speak. And so if you can save people, bring people to Krishna, whatever you have to do, you know. Like Prabhupada did, he adjusted so many things, like the temples, you know, having men and women in the temples, 16 rounds, just because he had this intense desire to bring people to Krishna. And so that's the point, yeah.
Also means that's Yukta Vairagya, isn't it?
Yeah, Yukta using things in Krishna's service.
Also
If you don't use things in Krishna's service that could be used in Krishna's service, it's called Falgu Vairagya. It means false renunciation. I think we have to end now, because we'll get in trouble if we go on too much longer. Okay, thank you very much. All glories to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai.